Well, we're back with another video. What's going on, guys? So today I'm gonna keep it blunt. I don't like RDLs, and I much prefer stiff legs. And I'm gonna kind of talk about where my thinking is with that, and how I kind of came to these conclusions. Now, just to preface, I'm not a sports scientist. I've never studied this stuff. I'm not well educated on this field formally. This is all based on my own personal experience. A lot of people that I've talked to lifting, a lot of things that I've heard them say and put together myself. And then honestly, just me sitting down and really going over how I think the mechanics of it work, my own experience mostly with these movements, and then seeing how other people have programmed them, the success that they've had while programming them, all that type of stuff. So we're going to keep it probably just pretty honest on how I feel about the movements and stuff, but I do not like RDLs. Now, this is all in context of strength-specific stuff. So we're talking about powerlifting. We're talking about going into a meet. We might touch on hypertrophy a little bit, but for the most part, we're going to talk about strength. And when it comes to, if I want to add weight to the bar on my competition deadlift, I don't think the RDL is really the answer. I think a stiff leg deadlift is going to be more for what we're looking for, to be honest with you. So let's get into it, and let's kind of see what you guys think, and see if you guys disagree, if you guys agree with me. Either way, let me know in the comments. I'd like to have a discussion about it. I put a few things out about this. I've had a few people give me some feedback on how they think about a stiff leg and an RDL, and I think most people will be surprised what most people think about a stiff leg compared to an RDL. So, all right, well, first, let's just define what is an RDL and what is a stiff leg. To make it very clear, cut and dry, and kind of what's the difference between the two. So now for an RDL, most people are going to come up, they're going to set up this in a rack, or they're going to set it up on something and walk it out, which is fine. For me, just for the sake of this video, we're going to do it off the floor. But all an RDL is going to be is you're going to bring this deadlift to the top, right? We're going to walk it out of a rack or whatever we need to do. And all we're going to do is we're going to lower this weight, and we're going to get it low to just about off the ground, and we're going to snap our hips forward. We're going to bring it back down slowly, and we're going to snap our hips forward. Now, we want to keep our shins parallel with the floor. We want to keep them vertical. We're trying to shove our hips back and bend at our knees and bring the bar down, bring the bar back up, right? So, a lot of it, though, a lot of the movement is going to be slow on the way down, and then quick and snapping our hips forward on the way up, which makes sense, right? Now, a stiff leg is going to be, we're going to set up close to the bar. Then we are going to keep our legs stiff. I know, believe it or not. We're going to keep our legs stiff, and we're going to come down to the bar. Now, mobility-wise, if we can't reach the bar with absolutely pin straight legs, yeah, you need to bend your legs just a little bit, but our thoughts through the whole movement is to keep our legs pretty much locked in place. Now, we're not going to lock our knees back, and we're not going to tighten them. That's not the point. What we're going to do is we're going to keep our legs nice. We're going to keep our legs straight. We're going to come here, and the only way that we can get to this bar is the hip hinge. So we're going to hip hinge back. We're going to grab the bar. We're going to pull up. We're going to come back down, put the weight down, and we're going to pull up. Same thing as an RDL. We're going to push our hips through to finish the rep. Now, the way that this can go is you can set up a little bit more parallel with the floor, or just your legs, or perpendicular with the floor. And you can come down and be more over top of the bar, more in front of the bar when you do this. In that case, the bar does kind of come away from your legs a little bit. Or you can set up and do this to where your legs come back more at an angle and have an open angle in the front of you. And the same thing. Now that way you're going to set it more over top of the bar, but you're still going to get your legs. Your legs are still going to be nice and straight, and you're still going to get that real nice stretch and all that stuff. So, all right, let's get a bit of a side angle so I feel like you can see it better. But an RDL, we're going to start at the top. We're going to slowly lower the weight, and we're going to bring the weight back up, right? And a stiff leg, we're going to start at the bottom. We're going to keep our legs nice and straight. We're going to set up everything like normal, and we're going to pull the weight up. We're going to come back down and pull the weight back up. Now, a lot of my thoughts when it comes to the RDL mostly boil down to technique and form. And I do want to say it is a bit of a caveat when it comes to it, because given that your form is perfect, you don't break form and you don't cheat, an RDL can have a big impact on your conventional deadlift and even on your sumo deadlift. And it can be a really good movement, and you can add strength to your stuff. Now, most of the time, what I see a lot of lifters do when it comes to an RDL is they end up cheating the reps, they end up breaking the form, and they end up not really doing something that's going to translate well to their conventional deadlift or even their sumo deadlift, to be honest with you. Now, when we talk about hypertrophy, I think an RDL is a really good movement when it comes to hypertrophy. I like to do RDLs with dumbbells. I like to really get, really focus on the way down, really taking that slow, really nice, really controlled, popping that back up using my hips. I really like that movement. And I think that when it comes to building just general size of your hamstrings, I think it can be a really good movement. Now, that said, I think most of the people's problem, including my own, admittedly, is that RDLs are very easy to cheat. It's very hard to do the movement the exact same in the exact same pattern every single time and know whether or not you're doing the movement exactly the same unless you're recording yourself. But when it comes to a stiff leg, you can't really cheat the rep other than to bend your legs. That's pretty much it. Now, when an RDL, and I know what most people are going to say, most people are going to be like right now, they'll be like, oh, well, RDLs are pretty easy too. You go down, you come back up. How do you cheat the rep? Well, you cheat the rep on how far away from you or close the bar is. How low are your hips going? Are they even going down at all? Are we truly hip hinging, or are we just hinging enough to get ourselves into a position where we can then bend at the knees and then almost squat the weight down slightly and then squat the weight back up? Well, with the stiff leg, you really can't do that. The only thing you could do on a stiff leg, like I said, is to bend your knees. So if you can really focus on, I'm keeping my legs straight, there is no cheating the rep. There is no, taking the range of motion less. Because that was a problem that I see a lot of lifters have when it comes to RDLs. I've seen a lot of videos of people do RDLs. They'll do their conventional deadlift. They'll do an RDL after with the barbell. And that's all great. But a lot of times I see a lot of these guys go and they go down to a certain point and come back up. And they go down to the same point and they come back up. And then that starts to fade. Then they're coming up to like an inch higher, an inch higher, an inch higher. Before you know it, people are trying to cram on 3, 4, 5, 4.5 plates on the bar. And they're going just below their kneecap and coming back up. And I saw a comment somebody put, I'll put up on the screen, on a post that I had about stiff legs and RDLs. And he had a phenomenal point, and it put it in a way that was right in my head, and I never quite thought about it in that aspect. Now, we talked about in the comments about, an RDL is a partial range of motion. It's not a full range of motion for your hamstrings. And it definitely is less range of motion than a conventional deadlift, than a sumo deadlift. Unless you're going to do an RDL, that's a deficit RDL, and you're going to go past the floor, you're not putting yourself through the full range of motion. Now, when it comes to a lot of the other movements, when it comes to like a bench press, when it comes to a squat, a lot of what our thinking is to put ourselves through more of a range of motion than our normal stuff. So, for instance, if we're doing a low bar squat, a lot of people will then program to do a front squat, a high bar, an SSB, all that stuff. Because let's say you go from a low bar to a front squat. If your problem is quad strength and pushing your knees forward and really getting good quad activation out of your squat, a lot of times people will throw in a high bar, an SSB, a front squat. But let's just do the front squat, for instance. If we go from a low bar to a front squat, in that front squat position, when we're at our lowest, our knees are going to be farther forward than our low bar, right? So we're going to have more stretch, more tension on our quads, for one. For two, for the majority of the people out there, a front squat, you're going to be able to hit deeper in your front squat than your low bar squat. And a lot of times, people on low bar cut the depth anyways, or they just physically can't get low enough in a low bar position. But a front squat, you almost have no problems getting in that position. It's the same way as when you do a bodyweight squat. If I do a bodyweight squat down, and as long as I have the actual mobility for it, I can go as low as possible in bodyweight squats. Because my center of gravity is my chest pretty much. So as I bring myself down, the weight's not behind me. The weight is right over my hips. So I can get nice and low. So if we want our back squat to go up, we're going to pick a movement that gives us more of a range of motion and works on our weakness, for sure. And same thing with the bench press. If our problem is off the chest, a lot of times we're going to look for movements that's going to build our pecs up. We're going to look for movements to put us through more of a range of motion. We're going to look for, an incline press. We're going to look for dumbbell presses, stuff like that. Even if we had a camber bar, a duffalo bar, all that stuff, something that puts our shoulders through more of a range of motion, we get more of a stretch in our pecs, right? So why would we not do the same when it comes to our deadlift? Like, why would we put ourselves through less of a range of motion and that be our choice? You know what I mean? And I understand when it comes to like a deficit deadlift, I get the thinking with it, I really do. That is more range of motion, but you are putting your hips in a different position to start. So like, will the carryover really be there? I don't know. But when it comes to, a stiff leg, we're adding range of motion to the movement without the starting position relative to our hands and to our feet to be the same. We still have to come down, our hands still have to come down to the bar, our feet are still in the same position, the bar is still the same height compared up on our shins. The only difference is the range of motion we're getting on our hamstrings. And the comment that I had, pointed out in a very good way, something I never quite thought about. I thought about the range of motion, but he said it great. He was like, is an RDL not the same as a low rack pull? Now, a lot of people that aren't West Siders, that are in the new wave of thinking when it comes to powerlifting and training, hate rack pulls. They hate them for one reason. Or for two reasons. A rack pull is not a full range of motion, and a rack pull is easily cheatable. You can easily put yourself, I don't care where I put these pins in this rack, I can get myself in a position underneath that bar to be in a stronger point than what I actually will be in my conventional deadlift. I can cheat the reps on a rack pull. Why can I not cheat the reps on an RDL? And I'm going to cheat them, and I'm not even going to know it. And a lot of people cheat it and either know it and continue to do it, or they're unaware of it, so they continue as if this is a good movement. Again, when it comes to hypertrophy, we can use this to get a good stretch on our glutes, get some extra work on our lower back, and get a decent amount of work on our hamstrings. Absolutely. But this should not be our second, third, and for some people, even our fourth movement when it comes to deadlift. An RDL needs to be for hypertrophy, for our hamstrings and glutes. And I'm going to lean honestly more towards that needs to be hypertrophy for our glutes, and even our erectors are probably a little bit more than our hamstrings. If we really want to get hypertrophy, size, and strength on our hamstrings, we need to be doing a stiff leg deadlift. All right, so I kind of want to show too, we're going to go back to the side angle. I kind of want to show, what does it look like when we cheat these RDLs? So if we come up, right, and we do ourselves an RDL, and we go nice and slow on the way down, we come all the way down, we come all the way back up. That's great, but what happens when we're doing a set of 10 of these, or 6, or 8, and we start to go a little higher, and a little higher, and we start speeding this up, and we start going faster, and we start going higher and higher, until eventually we're at our knees, we're above our knees, we're just coming down, we're slamming it up, we're waiting at the top, we're coming back down, we're slamming it up. That is what I'm talking about. This is how we can cheat. And also, if I come here, right, and I'm starting to get tired, my hamstrings, my glutes, my lower back's fatigued, I can kind of drop this weight down, and my hips can come lower than they've ever been before on any of these sets, right? And I can come down here, and I can almost squat the weight up and down. And I can do all this without really realizing what I'm doing. Now, with the stiff leg, as long as I keep my legs straight and stiff, how can I cheat this rep? The only other way I can cheat this rep is by pulling the bar up to my chest and doing a row. That's pretty much it. As long as I can think I need to keep my legs straight, that's it. That's my only goal, is to keep my legs straight and to pull the bar off the ground, right? Now, also too, I like the fact that we reset every single time on a stiff leg. It gives us not rest in between, but a reset in between, to where then now we have to focus on pulling this bar back up off the ground. This isn't something we can wait on, or we're only working this top half of the movement. We're working the full range of motion through a conventional deadlift. We're coming from the floor, we're coming all the way back up, back to the floor. And we are resetting every single time. We're not doing touch and go on stiff leg. We're coming to the bottom, we're grabbing the bar, we're keeping our legs nice and stiff, we're pulling up, we're coming back down. We're doing a full reset every time. And I really like that with the stiff leg. There's one way we can cheat this, and we're not going to cheat it by any means about range of motion whatsoever. Whew. All right, so to kind of wrap this video up, I'm going to talk about another YouTuber that I kind of watched a video very similar to this. Now, he talked about it more when it comes to squatting and stuff like that, but his name is Andrew Kyle. He's on YouTube. He's got a lot of great stuff. Very strong guy, strong deadlifter, strong bencher, strong squatter. But he brought this chart up, and I'll put it up on the screen too, where it talked about what your hip hinge is. What the range is, right? And on one side you have like front squats, you have high bar, low bar, whatever. And then on the very far side of it, we have our conventional deadlift, our stiff leg deadlift, and our RDL. Now, I'm going to argue that I don't think the RDL needs to be there. And the reason for that is I almost feel like for a lot of people, when it comes to the hip hinge and the range of motion and how it works, their RDLs are more similar to doing a trap bar deadlift than it is to doing their conventional pulls. A lot more people will cheat the range of motion for one, but for two, will drop their hips down and allow their knees to go forward farther and to bend more. Now, I think that if we're working on a hip hinge and we want a stronger hip hinge, we want our deadlift to be more ingrained that it is a hip hinge movement in our brains, and it's not a leg movement. It's not something we're going to bend on our knees for. I understand that we're trying to get more quads on our deadlift to get it off the floor and yada, yada, yada. We are not squatting a deadlift up, though. We are hip hinging the movement. We're using our hips. We're hinging at our hips. We are using our lower backs, our glutes, our hamstrings. We are going to use a bit of quad. We can't allow our knees to come forward slightly in order to be able to use more quads, but we can't do that with I can't think right now. But we can't do that at the detriment of our hip hinge. We can't allow ourselves to squat down to the bar. We're not going to be in a strong position, for one. For two, having it as a hip hinge movement, yeah, we're going to be stronger in it. But also, it's easier for us to really focus and hammer on our hip hinge when it comes to other movements, get stronger at that, use the squat to squat. We don't need to squat down to the bar. We need to use our hip hinge movements. We need to get stronger at those. Our deadlift will go up. We get stronger at our squats. Our squat will go up. We don't need to combine the two of them. This isn't a hybrid movement of the two. But I don't think for a lot of people that an RDL is going to be the same hip hinge as a stiff leg. And it's not going to be the same as a conventional deadlift. It's a lot easier to cheat your RDLs. It's a lot easier to cheat the range of motion. To be honest with you, I see a lot of people add more and more weight, and all they do is bring those up higher and higher and higher. We need to go through this full range of motion. You can't really cheat a stiff leg deadlift. And honestly, I've never felt a better pump and burn in my hamstring, glutes, and lower back than when I do my competition conventional deadlift, and I do it hard, and I'm sore already, and then I immediately strip weight off the bar and start banging out some stiff leg deadlifts. You know, and honestly, nothing has helped personally me learn what a hip hinge is than a stiff leg, because the only option you have is to hip hinge. That's the only thing you can do. Your hips are the only thing that are allowed to bend in that movement, so they're going to go one direction, and that's back. They cannot go down. They can't go back and down. They can't go back and then down as soon as you pull them back up. Your hips can go back. That's it. If my legs are straight and my torso is straight, and the only thing I'm not hammered on keeping stiff and tight is my hips, that can only go backwards. So in my head, if I'm trying to teach somebody how to do a deadlift, how to get good at hip hinge, I don't want to do an RDL. I don't want to do something they can cheat. I don't want to do something they can do that they can squat down to. I want to do something that they can only hip hinge in. That's it. Same way with a squat. I can agree that probably one of the best forms of squat that you can teach somebody off the bat is a goblet squat. And all a goblet squat is a front squat, but the weight's in your hand. So it's more of a front squat than a front squat is, because the weight is going from here to here. Now, because the only option they have when they do a goblet squat is to bend their knees, push them forward, and get in their quads and get nice and deep. You are eliminating so many other factors when you just give them a dumbbell and go, hold this in your hand here and squat down. They only can learn a squat movement from that. You're not really going to do a good morning on that. Because of how far forward the weight is, you're just going to squat down and come back up, and you're going to get very good at this pattern of down and up and down and up and down and up. Now, when it comes to a stiff leg deadlift, if the only options we're given is for our hips to go back and forward, that's the only thing we can do. So in my head, when it comes to new people, stiff legs are going to be it. When it comes to intermediate guys who want to hit something hard and they want to go hard at something, they want to get good stretch on something, a good pump on something, they want to be able to do weight, to add weight to that movement, to then add weight to their conventional deadlift. A stiff leg is far better than an RDL. Through the years, I've done RDLs and barbells, dumbbells, trap bars, a bunch of stuff. As my RDL has went up, my conventional does not go up. As my RDL gets harder, my conventional gets harder as well, because I'm creating more fatigue here, and it's not translating over here, because the only part of this movement that it's doing is it's, for one, and I understand the hypertrophic effect in here. That's not what I'm saying. But when it comes to strength and movement-wise, I'm getting better at lowering the bar under control on an RDL, which means I'm getting better at my conventional, lowering the bar with control. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm getting better over here with blasting my hips through for that second half. That's that top part, basically almost from the knee to lockout on my RDL. So I'm getting better with that over here too. Why don't I just go through the full range of motion and work on my lockout and all of those problems? Does that make sense? So to me, it doesn't, in my head, make sense of why I would program an RDL over a stiff leg. Now, it makes sense to do a conventional deadlift, to do a stiff leg, and then you're like, well, I still want to do some type of hamstrings. Or I'm on a squat day and I want to do hamstrings. I'm on my secondary deadlift day where I'm going to do something like a deficit, a pause, an axle bar, something like that. I can get after those movements going, okay, I want to do some RDLs with the trap bar or some dumbbells in a way that I can track where I go, and I can just get that real nice, decent stretch in my hamstrings. I can get a nice pump. I can focus on that. Sure, have at it, makes total sense. But when it comes to strength, the only thing that I have personally found that when I get stronger at it, it makes my competition deadlift go up. That isn't like an axle bar or something like that. Something like this accessory movement to it is a stiff leg deadlift, because I only can hip hinge. That's it. That's the only thing that I can do. So when we think about range of motion, when we think about form of the movement, we can also think about load of the movement. So when we become more advanced in the sport, we become older in the sport, we become more beat up in the sport. A lot of this is going to boil down to load management. Is this something that I have to pound weight on top of to get a good effect of? Because in that aspect, am I going to end up RDLing more the same or just barely less than my conventional deadlift and creating more fatigue through my blocks, through my weeks, through my training cycles, whatever it is? If our main goal is strength, we don't want to create too much fatigue. So by doing a stiff leg, you're probably going to do less weight than an RDL because you can't cheat the movement. It's all going to come from your hamstrings, your glutes, and your lower back. There isn't quads in this movement. There isn't, squatting the weight down, getting your hips lower to bring them back up. None of that's going to happen on a stiff leg deadlift, meaning our load is going to go down, which means we're going to get a better effect. In my head, we're probably going to get more hypertrophy off of a stiff leg deadlift than our hamstring, glutes, and lower back because we're putting ourselves through more of a range of motion. We're giving ourselves a bigger stretch in the bottom. And we can still focus on controlling that weight nice and slow on the way down, exploding on the way up. We can still do that with a stiff leg. But we're going to do it with less weight. Our load management is going to be more in tune. We're going to be more dialed into our load management. It's something that is a lot easier to go, I need to get more out of my movements and not more weight. My CNS needs time to recover. My muscles need more time in between these heavy movements. I'm getting beat up. I'm getting banged up. Maybe we need to find a better exercise that's going to, put ourselves through more of a range of motion, that is going to carry over better, that's going to give us more of the movement of what we're looking for, and keep the load down, in the same respect. Because I don't want to add just weight to everything. I don't want everything to be heavy. Sometimes I need my main stuff to be heavy, maybe my secondary stuff to be heavy, but everything else after that, I almost want to find the least amount of weight that I can and still get a great effect from it. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be hard. And I'm not saying everything needs to be in an RP2 when we do this stuff. That's not my point. But my point is, if I could pick between, let's just do a great example. If I had my option here between a 225 stiff leg for a 3x8 and a 315 RDL for a 3x8, I'm going to argue, for one, I will get more out of the 225 on a stiff leg than a 315 on an RDL. I think you're going to get more hypertrophy, you're going to get more of a stretch, more of a range of motion, all that stuff. We've already established that. And we're going to have more direct carryover from a stiff leg to our competition lift for two. And through all that, the tonnage is going to be down when it comes to our accessory movements, which means we're going to be less beat up. We're going to be less banged up. Our joints are going to feel a little bit better. So we're getting more out of the movement for less weight, which means we can be healthier. We can have less injury. Because what does it matter how strong we are if come meet day, we can't lift because we're hurt? We need to keep our loads down in our accessory movements, up in our competition. And the only thing that I've been having luck with is a stiff leg deadlift as it goes up in my accessory movements on my main day. My main movement then goes up. My hip hinge feels more dialed in. I'm more comfortable with it. It feels more natural to get to that bar and my hips just go back and not back and down or down and back, and I'm not squatting the weight anymore. The more that I do a stiff leg, the more that my body naturally just folds at my hips and my hips only shoot backwards. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I looked a little too deep into it. Maybe I'm not looking deep enough. Maybe I'm just an idiot. And you want to tell me. Sounds great to me. I'd love to have a conversation about it in the comment section. Maybe you guys have had better luck, or maybe there's something that you guys have put together. Or maybe this is kind of your first time hearing this, and maybe it makes sense. Please let me know what you guys think about all this stuff. Does stiff leg something that you do? Is RDL something you do? If you throw in a stiff leg and you train on this for the next month and you feel like it really made a difference than RDL, come back to the video. Let me know. I'd love to hear long-term what this can do for you guys. I know what it's done for me. Anytime I've ever pushed a stiff leg, my conventional has always gone up. Every time I've ever pushed an RDL, my RDL goes up. My conventional stays the same. So let me know what you guys kind of think. If you like this style of video, please give me a thumbs up, give me a like. It really helps me out. Super easy for you guys to do. It's free. All you got to do is click that button below. And it really helps my channel grow. If you guys also like this video, subscribe to the channel. I try to post stuff like this more often. I post videos. I try to every single day. I post a vlog 5 times a week, and I try to post 2 other videos on my off days that just have to do with form, gym equipment, general stuff, whatever I feel like talking about at the moment. So if you guys like it, let me know. It's one of those ways. So, but that's all I got for today. We'll be back tomorrow. We got a vlog. We got our secondary deadlift day, which is super cool, super exciting. We're going to do some axle bar deadlifts. We'll do some Larson press before. Hit a nice single on Larson. We got like an 8.5 RPE on Larson press for a single. Pumped for that. So we're going to kind of see how all that stuff goes. But that's pretty much all I got for today, guys. We don't have an outro around here, so video just kind of cuts off. I don't know. That's all I really got. So